Tom Hanks as Captain John H. Miller in Saving Private Ryan, released in 1998. He was 42 years old at the time, and is 68 years old in 2025. Martin Sheen as Captain Benjamin Willard in Apocalypse Now, released in 1979. He was 39 years old, and is 85 years old in 2025. Charlie Sheen as Chris Taylor in Platoon, released in 1986. He was 21 years old, and is 59 years old in 2025. Matthew Modine as Private Joker in Full Metal Jacket, released in 1987. He was 28 years old, and is 66 years old in 2025. Josh Hartnett as Staff Sergeant Matt Eversman in Black Hawk Down, released in 2001. He was 23 years old, and is 47 years old in 2025. George C. Scott as General George S. Patton in Patton, released in 1970. He was 43 years old. He died in 1999 at the age of 71. Jim Caviezel as Private Wit in The Thin Red Line, released in 1998. He was 30 years old, and is 56 years old in 2025. Mel Gibson as Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore in We Were Soldiers, released in 2002. He was 46 years old, and is 69 years old in 2025. Matthew Broderick as Colonel Robert Gould Shaw in Glory, released in 1989. He was 27 years old, and is 63 years old in 2025. Tom Cruise as Ron Kovic in Born on the 4th of July, released in 1989. He was 27 years old, and is 63 years old in 2025. Sylvester Stallone as John Rambo in Rambo, First Blood Part 2, released in 1985. He was 39 years old, and is 79 years old in 2025. Sean Connery as Captain Marco Ramius in The Hunt for Red October, released in 1990. He was 60 years old. He died in 2020 at the age of 90. Dirk Bogarde as Lieutenant General Frederick Browning in A Bridge Too Far, released in 1977. He was 56 years old. He died in 1999 at the age of 78. Jude Law as Vasily Zaitsev in Enemy at the Gates, released in 2001. He was 29 years old, and is 52 years old in 2025. Michael J. Fox as Private Max Erickson in Casualties of War, released in 1989. He was 28 years old, and is 64 years old in 2025. Denzel Washington as Lieutenant Colonel Nathaniel Sorling in Courage Under Fire, released in 1996. He was 41 years old, and is 70 years old in 2025. Patrick Swayze as Jed Eckert in Red Dawn, released in 1984. He was 32 years old. He died in 2009 at the age of 57. Owen Wilson as Lieutenant Chris Burnett in Behind Enemy Lines, released in 2001. He was 33 years old, and is 56 years old in 2025. Jake Gyllenhaal as Anthony Swafford in Jarhead, released in 2005. He was 25 years old, and is 44 years old in 2025. Ken Watanabe as General Kurabayashi in Letters from Iwo Jima, released in 2006. He was 47 years old, and is 65 years old in 2025. Thomas Kretschmann as Lieutenant Hans von Witzland in Stalingrad, released in 1993. He was 31 years old and is 63 years old in 2025. Jang Dong-gun as Lee Jin-tae in Taeguk Gi, released in 2004. He was 32 years old and is 53 years old in 2025. Sam Waterston as Sidney Schanberg in The Killing Fields, released in 1984. He was 44 years old and is 84 years old in 2025. Marco Hofschneider as Solomon Pearl in Europa Europa, released in 1990. He was 21 years old and is 56 years old in 2025. Tommy Lee Jones as Sergeant Steve Butler in Heaven and Earth, released in 1993. He was 47 years old and is 79 years old in 2025. Ryan Phillip as John Doc Bradley in Flags of Our Fathers, released in 2006. He was 32 years old and is 51 years old in 2025. Gene Hackman as Colonel Jason Rhodes in Uncommon Valor, released in 1983. He was 53 years old. He died in 2025 at the age of 95. Jason Gedrick as Doug Masters in Iron Eagle, released in 1986. He was 21 years old and is 59 years old in 2025. Jason Patrick as Konstantin Kovrchenko in The Beast of War, released in 1988. He was 22 years old and is 59 years old in 2025. James Caan as Sergeant Clell Hazard in Gardens of Stone, released in 1987. He was 47 years old. He died in 2022 at the age of 82. Ethan Hawke as Will Not in A Midnight Clear, released in 1992. He was 22 years old and is 54 years old in 2025. Stan Shaw as Eddie Beach in The Boys in Company C, released in 1978. He was 26 years old and is 73 years old in 2025. Matthew Modine as Captain Dennis Dearborn in Memphis Belle, released in 1990. He was 31 years old and is 66 years old in 2025.